Longevity Lifestyle Designers. This is Zach here with secretsoflongevity.com. So I was perusing someone's Facebook profile. I'm not going to mention names, and the screenshot I'm about to show you has been censored, but some of you might be able to guess who this person's Facebook page is. Anyways, it really highlights sort of the extreme nature of this person's beliefs and teachings, and I just wanted to sort of draw attention to it just because it's pretty darn extreme, if you ask me. It's kind of verging on a slightly Nazi eugenicist type mentality. This is specifically about sterilization of the population, and this is specifically about Australia. And I actually read the article that the screenshot will show you, and I'll show you the screenshot first. Here it is. So as you see, someone posted an article. It kind of gives you an overview of the article. You can always go on naturalnews.com to search the title of that article, and then there's the person's response. So the article's title is actually meant to be a bit sensationalist to get people to read it, and what's actually occurring is that there's some policies that have been passed in Australia that is basically allowing psychiatrists to get people under the age of 18 to consent to being sterilized who are in mental institutions. So this is really weird, bizarre law. Cannot imagine anything like that happening in North America, but this is a developed country in Australia. But anyways, you can read the response that that person was giving, that they agreed with this kind of thing. And you know what, this is really unbelievable to see someone that is supposed to be intelligent, if they're in a public eye, in the public domain, teaching and being a figure for other people, a representation of health, and they've got this kind of opinion. It's really disturbing to see. The idea that we should be forced sterilizing or sterilizing people who are not aware of the implications of their choices, meaning people who are under the age of 18. Not only does that go against the ideas of veganism and compassion, but this is actually going against basic human rights and everything that we stand for in a free society. Of course, the argument is about the overpopulation of the world, and that is certainly a problem. However, in the developed world, where populations are decreasing in terms of people who are already living there, there is a lowering of birth rates amongst the most educated and most wealthy people of the world. Your opinion on that might vary, but that's clearly not the area of the world that has the problem with birth rates. So even the argument of sterilizing those areas of the world is not one that makes much sense. It's actually the overpopulated areas of the world, which are the low-income areas of the world. That would make the most sense to have that argument, but again, I'm not making that argument. That, again, is also very unethical, completely against human rights, basic stuff like that. So the actual philosophical framework for arguing about how to control the world population down the road is one that I'm not going to go into in this video. That is a completely separate topic that I won't be getting into on my channel, but maybe I'll do that on my Zach Martin-Kilgour channel. You can always check that one here. At some point, I talk about all sorts of things on there that aren't health related. So check that out if you want to see my thoughts on various world issues and other topics. But this really got me thinking after I saw this ridiculous post. There's this prevalent idea amongst specifically vegans, perhaps even raw vegans even more predominantly, that they're out there trying to make this change within the world with their diet, that they get so zealous in their approach that they think they have to do all these little things, and that's going to have this massive impact, such as sterilizing yourself as taking one for the team of humanity and the planet and pushing towards better humanity. If you choose to do that, that's good. We'll have less vegan kids running around with potential health problems. But really, we should look at why that framework and way of thinking gets developed. If someone, as an individual, as part of a greater species, starts to develop these thoughts that they don't want to contribute to the gene pool, they're clearly not recognizing their own genetic strengths. If veganism was such a good path to take that is healthy for humans, you would think that more vegans would want to be making lots of kids to crowd out the meat eaters. That doesn't seem to be the case if they all start becoming pro-self-sterilization, pro-sterilization of other people against their will. There's not going to be a very good survival rate and passing down of those values onto offspring. So with that in mind, what's actually more powerful for making change in the world is if you feel you're living a integrous life, whether it's in terms of environmental impact, the way you eat your diet, you think that's creating some sort of genetic strength in you, you're going to have the natural inclination to pass that on. So if you don't have that natural inborn instinct to procreate, not saying you have to, but if you don't have the instinct to and the desire to have your genetic integrity get passed on, that means you're either on the downward path of destroying your genetic health. We're just talking about instincts here, not scientific fact. There's no studies on this. Or you just don't appreciate what you do have and think that it's valuable to the world. So if you have certain beliefs and practices in your life that you want to pass down, and yes, there's multiple ways that you can pass down information. You don't have to actually have kids to pass on values and things like that. So what I'm trying to get at is that, you see vegan females or raw vegan females having massive bouts, like a large amount of these people are experiencing amenorrhea, which is the cessation of their period, so they're becoming infertile. You have male infertility. You have all these things happening, self-sterilization. What's this mentality about? What's really going on that root level is what I'm trying to get at here. Some of the most well-respected ancient traditions of medicine thoroughly recognize that one's integrity of your genetic force, or your jing, or your libido, your sexual vitality, all these things are the foundational framework to your overall health. So if you don't have that drive to pass on those genetics, then you're actually not in a healthy state, mentally, physically, spiritually, or emotionally. So I'm going to get into the topics of infertility and vasectomies, and as I talk about certain articles and studies, I'm going to link them below and just number through them. And so if you go into the drop-down menu below this video, you're going to see links with numbers beside them, and just as I number them off in the video, you can just go down and click them if you want to look into more depth as to what I'm talking about. So number one is a study from PubMed. It's on infertility and its connection with depression. So this is not on people who have voluntarily become infertile, but it's just men who have become aware that they're infertile and the effect that has on their self-concept and their overall mood. So what was found in men who are suspected of themselves or who were aware that they were infertile compared to men who were perfectly fertile, they found that there was lower self-esteem, anxiety issues, depression, and all these other things. So an inability to feel like you're adequate to be on this planet and existing. So again, we see that it comes down in men to that sort of core foundational place, that if you're not able to have that quality of being able to procreate at your disposal on a subconscious level, and we're not talking, we can't just logically think this out like, oh, I'm beyond that, blah, blah, blah. This is subconscious programming that we have that's not really even reversible through hypnosis or things like that. This is what we're designed to do. And I'm not saying you need to actually do that, but knowing that that's there, that you have that potential, is confirming to the fact that you're a man and you're in this world, and this is on some level part of your purpose. So if you don't have that core knowing that you can potentially have offspring when you need to, that's when the feelings of hopelessness come in and all these other things. So I can't remember if I said the last link was number one. So if you go down below the video, that's going to be link number one. Link number two is looking at both men and women. It's a study in China, and it found some people experiencing depression and anxiety after sterilization. So this is their own choice to be sterilized. Again, this is looking at vasectomy and the equivalent procedure for women. This is showing that there is going to be some people, no matter what, they're choosing this for the reason of limiting their offspring, because they either, well, in China actually, you get penalized and you get in trouble if you have more than one kid, so that would be why that procedure would be more common. But yeah, we still see this happening, that there's an effect on the psychological and mental health of the individual, obviously not in all cases, but in a decent amount of cases. And if you just do any research on the subject, attach the word depression with vasectomy or anxiety with vasectomy, and you'll start to see some of the information out there. And it appears to be connected with female sterilization as well. So this really starts to bring into this question, is this worthwhile? Yes, there's always the risk of complications in surgeries, as I'll get into in a bit. There's now the risk of depression, anxiety, psychological issues with this. When we start to stack these up, we just see more and more likelihood of something going wrong, and there's even a likelihood pretty much that anyone that has any level of invasive procedure on their body is going to have some type of problem that will come out of it. We want to avoid cutting, slicing, dicing our bodies as much as possible, even when it's considered a minor surgery, such as vasectomy. When you have a very high level of respect for your body and appreciation for it, you won't have an urge to do these things for it. And when you recognize your body as this precious gift and it's perfect the way it is, you don't have an urge to alter it and change it. Yes, there's going to be surgeries that improve the function of your body. I'm not talking about plastic surgery for someone who's had horrendous burns on their body or something like that. But when we're getting into corrective surgeries that aren't necessary, then I personally feel very strongly that these need to be not touched if you're on a path of health and longevity. Link number 3 below is the Wikipedia page for the different types of vasectomies that are out there. There's a number of different types, there's different variations. It's hard to sum them all up. You will want to go look at those and read them if you want to know more about this, if you're considering getting a vasectomy. The one that I'm aware of that is perhaps the least detrimental is the open-ended vasectomy, which just means they don't cauterize the ends of the vas deferens that are leading away from the testicles. They snip sort of in that area between the testicles, and then before it goes back up into the body, the tubes, and they'll clamp off in some way, whether it's cauterization or whatever method they're using, the upper vas deferens, but the sperm, it actually forms a cap on its own, but because when it's left like that, it doesn't have as many blowouts that are common with other procedures, which is often painful and dangerous, where the fact that there's about 50,000 sperm cells produced a minute in a male's body. You can imagine how if there was something stopping the flow of any kind of hose that was, you know, if you imagine a fire hose, it's building water pressure, it's going to blow somewhere if the end of the hose has been plugged up. But I still don't entirely understand what's going on there. There's still the possibility of blowouts even if you've had this procedure. Just because the body's put a cap on it instead of it being cauterized or something like that. There's going to be different ways that the sperm get out from there, and what we're seeing now with a lot of studies is also the increased risk of inflammation, because our body actually prevents the sperm from interacting with the blood, and when that gets into the blood, then you start having an autoimmune reaction because the sperm only contain one strand of DNA and they have a number of enzymes on the outer shell that reacts with the immune system as soon as it comes into contact with the blood in any way. So we don't want to be having these blowouts occurring, we don't want to be having any problems that could come up from the surgery itself. We're seeing possibilities of damage to the nerve tissues and other tissues that are leading to the testicles, which can lead to atrophy of the testicles, reduced production of testosterone. That's going to affect your likelihood of depression later on. So depression that we see in these people could also be related to reduced production of testosterone. If you're a woman and you want to sort of see the possibilities or detriments of a vasectomy, compare someone who you are with or have been with who had a vasectomy with someone who hasn't. And it's not going to be the case in all cases, but there's going to be some people that notice a difference. and that's going to be the atrophy that can come into play. There can also be granulomas that form in various places around and in the testicle region. Again, you have to look this stuff up and learn more about it, but these are all risks that do happen in a significant quantity. I mean, any individual thing might not be that common, but when you add up the possibilities, the sheer volume of things that can go wrong, it starts to become a pretty risky procedure. So the fourth article below is something I'm going to just read from here. These are the categorized issues that can come up. I've already mentioned some of them, but we're going to go through these. Lifelong autoimmune allergic responses, so that's from the blowouts and other things. Chronic testicular pain, that one happens and can be a huge problem. The basic way to cure that some doctors are talking about is complete castration. So that is horrendous to think about, not worthwhile in my opinion. It's better to learn how to manage your reproductive fluids in a more discerning way than to risk that, in my opinion. Decreased testicular function, including changes in endocrine production. Chronic inflammation from the formation of sperm granulomas. Scrotal and epididymal cyst formation, including spermatocyte and hydrocele cysts. Congestive and infectious epididymitis. Prostatitis, prostate cancer as well. So various forms of prostate issues have been connected with vasectomies of various types. Testicular atrophy I mentioned. Lung cancer. Non-Hodgkin's lymphoma. Testicular cancer. Erectile dysfunction. Impotence. Circulatory problems. Phlebitis. Rheumatoid arthritis. Pulmonary embolism. Lupus. Atherosclerosis. Hardening of the arteries, etc. Autoimmune orchitis. Staph infections, including infections of the heart valves. Gangrene of the scrotum. That's obviously probably pretty rare. Vasculitis nodosa. Loss of libido. Kind of mentioned that one already. Multiple myeloma, personality disturbances, diabetes, multiple sclerosis, adrenal gland dysfunction, migraine and other related headaches, hypoglycemia, narcolepsy, generalized lymph node enlargement, and liver dysfunction. So is that worth getting the SNP? So that article is not written by an MD or anything like that, but it's someone who's had problems post-vasectomy and they decided to write that article and categorize those problems that can occur. Some of their information came from a very well-researched book by Dr. H.J. Roberts, and the title is Vasectomy Worth the Risk? A Physician's Case Against Vasectomania. So anyone that's considering this, don't just take my word for it. Do your own research. Check out that book. That's going to be link number 5. Below is a link to the Amazon page where you can check that book out. Read some of the reviews of the book. There's dentists and other doctors on there who are just like giving it 5 stars. Like, wow, I was doing vasectomies or recommending vasectomies to my patients. Now I will never do that again. This minor convenience that is afforded by a successful vasectomy, in my opinion, is largely inhibited by the vast amounts of risks that can come from botched procedures, the wrong types of procedures, even the best types of procedures have their risks. Do you want to risk those things just to have that ability to be frivolous with your reproductive fluids and not have that risk of having another child or even having a child if you haven't had one yet? In my opinion, it's much more satisfying to learn how to control yourself so that you don't accidentally release your reproductive fluids somewhere you don't want them to go, and just be more conscientious about the way you engage in things. So, interesting topic I've been thinking about lately. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Check out the links in the drop-down menu as well, beyond the links for the articles I've talked about, because there's some affiliates that you can click through and purchase from that help support me. There's a lot of really good products from the Surthrival link that can help anyone that is experiencing issues with infertility, and you can see remarkable increases in production of sperm, specifically from the Hyperion herbs link. You're going to find things like Hoshiwu, which can triple your sperm count in a matter of months. That's been shown in some studies. And there's a lot of adaptogenic Jing building herbs, and if you want to learn more about both yin and yang Jing tonics, which you really need to focus on if you want to progress towards stronger sexual reproductive abilities, which is the foundational aspect of your health, then check out these two videos here. And with that, take care and embrace life without limits.